Well, I had a guy one time, he was really mad. It was another agent. He was pissed at me for some reason. He just starts yelling at me, and, he's one of those guys that just hated me because I had a vagina, I guess. I don't know. So
what?
I can't help
when
it.
did that happen, Sarah?
I've always had one. I was born with one. So anyway,
and she chose to keep it.
He's just so mad that I'm a girl, and I don't know if I know you guys haven't felt that, but you may have felt that before.
I don't know.
It's just this mentality, and you can feel it when it happens. And so, he starts yelling, he's cussing at me at this point. It's a really big fan to talk to.
Let's have a chat, talk this and that with pb&jaisy.
Hello and welcome back to the pb&jaisy podcast. My name is JC George. I am the JC in this sandwich, and right here we have
Sarah Emily Padgett.
Wow, and I'm Billy Morstead. I'm on the B, sandwiched between the two beautiful women, and today the Tiger King.
Yes, the interview's so nice we had to do it twice.
All right.
We got such rave reviews, Jeff. Everyone loved you, so we of course had to have you back.
Anytime.
So thank you so much for being here.
Of course. I'm glad to be back.
This one, I feel like we should just do it pretty loose, no rules.
Yeah.
It's very similar to the last time. We don't know what's going to happen again. Rules out the window. Tom, I'm sure, has the bleep button ready again. Did we have a topic that we wanted to talk about? Something just to kind of get us going?
I want to know something.
All
in
right.
this whole room, and I think it applies to everybody, I've seen a remarkable ability of us to be able to work with anyone. And Jeff, it's not like you're in competition with somebody. You're trying to help a client, but there's a lot of people involved in that when we're doing it. And we've either got to get our offers accepted or in my case, we have to work through obstacles with other agents and brokers. So how do we do that? I mean, we're supposed to be cooperating brokers.
Exactly.
And all too often it feels like we're going to war, and we've got, agents come out there to bring an offer to us, and they've got their sword, they've got their shield. Mm-hmm. It's my way or the highway, and then they'll say stupid stuff like, I've been doing this 20 years. Who cares?
Ooh, that's when you know it's going to go bad. When they start telling you, like, how many degrees they have and how long they've been in real estate, like, just...
It's always funny because when I hear that, I've got the ability to look up how much business they've done.
The ability,
yeah. And a lot of times when someone tells me they've been doing it for 20 years, like 4 deals a year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They've had their license for, Well, it's a defense mechanism when people have, if you have a lot of money and a lot of success, you don't have to buy a name brand clothing or tell people you did or anything like that. They just know you did. They know you're successful. I know a few agents in Mansfield that I kind of look up to. They don't post a lot on Facebook about real estate or anything like that. Everybody just knows that they're good at what they do. So I think a lot of that could be, oh gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. And so I take that as an opportunity of, okay, they're getting defensive. How can I make everybody just calm down, kumbaya, we're going to hold hands. And that's where I always pull in my little cliches. I always say we're colleagues, not competitors. A house is made out of sticks and bricks. It has no feelings, but the people involved do. And
That's good.
And write that down.
Yeah. In all honesty, I just think it's you have a seller, and sometimes they're either selling because they're having to relocate, or there was a death, or a financial reason. A lot of times the seller is not happy about selling already, and then you have this little buyer coming along, taking apart their house that they lived in forever and raised their kids in and did this and that, and the tension's already there. So what I love to do is just from the get-go, like if I'm the listing agent, as soon as you schedule a showing, I reach out to you via text. Hey, Jay-Z, thank you so much for showing my listing at 123 Main Street. If you have any questions, this is my cell phone number. Please call me during your showing. And that way I have it on my calendar when they're showing the house. It's hard when there's 60 showings, but I feel like that loosens.
Like rich kid problem.
Yes. Well, no, but I mean, like,
trying to sell this house. I mean, I already have like multiple offers.
Well, no, but I'm saying that you're trying to. I tried
Sure.
to. It happened to me one time when I was a buyer's agent, and I just felt loose going in, and I felt like I was wanting to show that house more.
Right.
Because I had the information and I had the rapport already. So now I build the rapport day one, and all we talk about is teamwork, and I over communicate, as y'all know I do, every little thing, and that way there is no surprise, it didn't
Right.
this and that. We try to just get everything out there and then just work together through each situation instead of the what ifs. I don't do a lot of what ifs.
Well, and I'll say in our industry, so we're all realtors. Again, if you guys haven't, we're not trying to plug that, just so you know where we're coming from. But a lot of times in a transaction, you've got, buyer, seller, buyer's agent, seller's agent, and it's a lot of pushing. Mm-hmm. And some of that stems from all of our clients are emotional. Like you said, Jeff, it's an emotional process. And so everyone comes in fully charged with emotions. And so one thing I would say about Jeff's really good about taking those fists and it's like this. And now you're holding hands and you're walking together from start to finish. And he's very, very good at it. So talk about that. How do you do that? Because I know you've had them before, the ladies, the little blue hairs that come in and say, I've been doing this 30 years.
Yeah.
I'll fax it to you and whatever. Yeah. How do you take somebody like that and get them to like you and to work with you?
Well, what I try to do is I try to kind of adapt to the audience, I guess you could say, kind of like wherever you are, whether you're on a Howard Stern podcast or you're talking to a kindergarten class, you can deliver the exact same message in two different forms. So if I'm talking to, like I said, an old blue hair who wants to, tell me about all their experience and call me sweetie and stuff like that, you don't take that into offense. They've been doing it a while. They've earned their stripes, even if they've only done a couple transactions a year.
Stripes.
Yeah, they're blue stripes. Yeah, and you try to talk to them like they want to be talked to, communicate like they want to be communicated with. Yeah. Usually it's not text. Usually
very
it's
loudly.
Yeah. Here's your giant checkers, lady. No, and but no, seriously, you just try to adapt, and you just have you get thick skin, and I always go to every transaction. I still treat myself like a rookie. Like I just feel like because everything is different. So
there's always something to learn.
Yeah, and I just feel like that agent on the other side probably has more experience than I do. Even in year 7, I don't, and it's not like cut down on myself. I think it's a respect factor that they have the same license I do. I think if you have a mindset, it's all about mindset. Everything, just have a mindset that you're going to work together with them to get to that goal.
Try to adapt to whoever you're talking to, and
without totally coming across as a pushover. Yes. Like let them know I'm flexible, but to an extent.
So I've got 2 things that I heard there, and one, I always chuckle because I don't ever look at the experience that someone has. It doesn't matter to me because we're all on the same team trying to work through it. We're co-op agents, and it's oftentimes that I've got to remind people that we're just doing what our clients have asked us to do. I just hit the mic and Tom is going to be real happy about that. But we're just doing what clients have asked us to do. Mm-hmm. That's all we're doing. We're not trying to upset anybody, so we're trying to work through that. But I've got to go back to something Sarah Emily said just a couple minutes ago. Hey, that was for you, Mrs. Paget. But I've got to go back to something Sarah said a couple minutes ago. She referenced this thing that I don't know what it is. It's a fax. You said fax. What is a fax?
It's a true statement.
Give us the facts about the fax.
When I first started, you faxed everything. And I remember it being a big deal. Like you would, sign a contract, you would fax it over, they would sign, they would fax it back, you would forget something and have to make a change, you fax it again. And sometimes you would end up with this little bitty 3.5, like an index card contract. You're reading a legal document that you don't know if it says, back then, if it says 120,000 or 130,000. And how much closing, it was weird. It would get so fast. And so then you have to start all over because it was, it was bad.
Yeah, I remember coming in on Monday mornings and not everybody learned etiquette. So they would just fax the offer over. Hint, hint, if you're practicing today, don't email something without calling or texting first and say, I'm sending the document, please be looking for it. But they would just fax in an offer to the office. And I would come in, and I do know what a fax machine is, but I've been doing this so long that our fax paper was on rollers. And we would be out of fax paper. No. We'd have to reload our thermal fax machine. And it didn't have a memory that went forever. So you had no idea how many you lost because sometimes the agents weren't calling to say, I'm sending you over an offer, which is, Jeff, something I really appreciate about what you do. I watch you talk to the people before and after the transaction. Mm-hmm. So you said when you see them showing, you actually call them and say, hey, while you're showing, if you have any questions, any problems, call me during the show and I'll be watching for your number. And that takes a lot of dedication, especially in this crazy business. But I also know as a buyer's agent, you're not just shooting over an offer to somebody.
Right.
And when there is bad news to be communicated, I think the best way to do that is by calling somebody first and saying, hey, I just sent you some information. My buyer's asking for this, or the house didn't appraise, or, gosh, we just lost a job or whatever. We've got to go back to square one. But it's much better communicated over the phone first
100%.
And send the support. I was helping.
Well, he'll send a GIF too, which helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what's a GIF?
Like the little, like the.
No, I know what a GIF is.
I don't know.
What's a podcast?
Yeah. Internet. Yeah.
Your contract is accepted. It's like that dancing one.
Yeah, but what I like to do is, Bill said this a long time ago. I say a long time ago, a few years ago, I guess. He said, like, the hardest conversations are the ones you have to make. Mm-hmm. And so, you kind of just get mentally prepped for it. And what I like to do is, if there is a bad news conversation that needs to happen, I used to be so bad about wanting to get the information over so fast because I felt like just because I knew it, that they knew I had it, Right. What I've done now is I slow down a little bit and I'm like, okay, if the appraisal came in this low, let me talk to my buyer first. Let me see if they have any extra cash. Let me see if I have another buyer for the property. Let me see. I try to get several solutions. So when I do make that phone call, I say, I have bad news, but I have 4 scenarios that I want to try to work with. And then they at least see effort on your part because you didn't make the appraisal. You didn't, but I think if you, from the time you show that house and you're in communication and you keep it loose a little bit with facts and professional, obviously, and it just makes those a little bit easier. It humanizes a little bit the conversation because I feel like I worked with a realtor a year ago on one of my listings, and that specific realtor, I'm trying to be careful not to even use gender.
You're not supposed to anymore, so you're good.
They were very they were very what I would say aggressive on the email. So what I would do is I would take a breath.
I hate the aggressive email.
Yeah, so I would take a deep breath and call. I called every time that person emailed, and it was a totally different tune.
My last email.
Yes, and they were very
love Karen.
Yeah, they were very on the email. So I would call after a little bit and say, "Hey, I understand, but." And it's just how you approach it.
Yes.
Yeah. But like I said, it's stressful for everybody. I mean, because we all need a check. We all need a good review. Sometimes we're working with friends and family. We want it to be stress-free for them because how awkward would it be if somebody ended up in court and then you have to go to Thanksgiving the next week?
Let's take like the real estate part out of it too, and just talk about it in general, how to deal with difficult people. We had Ann on a few weeks ago, and she talked a lot about that. But Jaisy, maybe you can speak to that too, like. Because I know you've had difficult clients before.
Oh, yeah.
And just, you have kids. They can be difficult. Like, how do you...
My kids are angels, Sarah. Why would you even talk about
Wait, weren't they crawling on your head during a Marco Polo?
I'm sorry that they bit you that one time.
They
meant well.
They bit you.
Well, to be honest, I probably bit them first.
I do have a question, though,
Boudreauxs.
about your angels. Butt paste?
Oh, goodness.
Boudreauxs.
The story behind the Boudreauxs butt paste. So our lovely oldest son, Xander, this was the beginning of quarantine. So a year ago around this time, I'm like 7 months pregnant at this point, and Tom was working from home. But Tom's working from home is he's actually not in the home. He actually has like a she shed, man shed, that is his office studio, a he shed, that he works in. And so luckily we have a Google Home in there. So if there's emergencies, I say, hey Google, broadcast a message, and then I'll say whatever I need to say. And she's lovely. She tells him whatever I need to say. So on this one day, I'm downstairs, I'm like making breakfast or something. And I'm like, man, it's kind of quiet. And I realize that our stair gate is not on. And I'm like, where's Xander? I run upstairs. We had just recently received a whole bunch of lovely gifts from our office, our friends and family for the new baby. One of the things was a giant 32-ounce can thing. I don't even know what this is. It's bigger than this.
2 of these.
It was huge. A 32-ounce thing of Boudreauxs butt paste. And so I walk into the bedroom, and my son, who was like 18 months, maybe at that point, was covered in Boudreauxs butt paste. His hair, his eyebrows, his clothes, everywhere. He could barely even open one of his eyes. He looked like Rocky. just trying to, and I'm like, what is going on? So immediately I'm like, Google, broadcast a message. And of course she doesn't hear it. So then of course I get that tone with her. Google, broadcast the message. Tom, I need you now. And so Tom runs in because he can hear my tone. He walks upstairs and his immediate thing is he starts laughing and then he says, where's your phone? Starts recording it. We had to wash him like a dove, the baby ducklings that they catch with Dawn dish soap. We had to wash him probably 3 or 4 times just to scrub it out.
Did he not read the label? It's for his
I know. How dare he? We've been putting him in that Kumon Learning, and at 18 months, he didn't even know how to read the label. Boudreauxs Butt Paste is not, they do not play. I guess it's made in New Orleans. They do not play in Louisiana. That stuff was like so hard to get out. Poor kid. He didn't, luckily, we thought we were going to have to shave his head.
So was there any left in the?
Absolutely not.
But you brought up a great point of if you were dealing with a contract situation or a negotiation at that point in time, I think what would come into was something that was emphasized. I had the benefit of going to Buffini's The Peak Experience last week. And while we were in there, or a couple weeks ago, I guess it was, and while we were there, one of the speakers was Bob Beaudine. And you may know that Bob Beaudine wrote the book, The Who. And it's amazing, and it's an amazing book. But we got a principle out of that book that Dermot Buffini, in one of his talks, based on the book, based on Motown, based on Hitsville, put together this principle called Halt, okay? And it's never to make a decision, never to respond to anything when you're hungry, when you're angry, when you're lonely, or when you're tired.
Well, I'm out then.
And I imagine that
Podcast
all
ends here.
4 of those came to a conclusion right then, right?
Oh, yes. Also, I think a good thing to learn from that story is know when to call for help. Because sometimes when we're in these situations, what do we say? Beat the heat. You've got to kind of know when cool heads prevail. So you've got to know when to stop and tell Google that second time, girl, I need you. And, take a second, maybe call somebody to calm yourself down, to kind of get a level head before you call that agent back or, tell... Agent.
The Asian.
Asian.
You have to enunciate that word.
Maybe I meant Asian. I'm trying to call my husband.
Don't be afraid to call an Asian for help.
My number is in the show notes if you need an Asian to call.
Oh.
If you need to expand your sphere of friends, I'm here for you.
Well, Tom, though, showed that, like, if you are willing to call for help, he ran in, he didn't yell, why weren't you watching the baby?
Well,
He said, babe.
Something really bad
he
was
said-
wrong, and then we realized that it was just butt paste.
Yeah, so he's going,
right.
okay, she pulled me away from a stressful job. I'm in here. This is some funny stuff. Where's your phone? And you're like, you immediately probably just, he's not mad. So I'm not, because you have that. Yeah, so you called for help.
Definitely.
And help came with laughter.
But you took it one step further. Then you posted
Yes.
the videos
That
on
was so
Facebook.
cute.
Ellen, we're still waiting for that call.
Oh,
Well, you better hurry up because I heard that she's canceling
5 to
her
10.
show.
Yeah, 5 to 10. Call her
Sorry.
5 to 10.
Whoever's going to take her show.
Wendy Williams might be better.
Wendy. Who's the one?
Who knows?
Kelly Clarkson. She's local.
Maybe
We
it
love
could
you, Kelly.
be us.
Oh, yeah, it could be us.
Oh.
Or y'all, I mean. I'm not.
All of our millions of viewers, put in your votes.
Who wants Xander?
Well, so long story short, her angel got into butt paste. Yes.
But he didn't have diaper rash ever again.
Ever again. He's actually never had a diaper rash since.
Or a bowel movement since then.
But
He's just paste and
Yes.
shoved.
But it also brings back the fact that, we're all human and it may sound like we're saints because we're talking about the best way to deal with other people. But Jeff, I'm sure you or Jay-Z or Sarah, I know I do from time to time, we do get upset. We are angry at times.
We get anal.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta slow down when you handle it. Tell me how you handle that situation because you're still trying to keep the communication going, and it doesn't take but one bad communication to ruin an entire transaction. So how do you take care of that?
Well, I know for me, if something isn't going smooth, or if maybe being self-aware is a big deal. And I've actually had called or texted agents afterwards and said, hey, that came across more harsh than I meant, or I'm trying to facilitate this deal, not kill the deal, not and a lot of times they're just like, hey, no, we get it, but at least I reached out, because they may have gone for the next several weeks thinking he was a jerk, because we may not have an opportunity to talk again once a low appraisal or something comes in, unless you're really reaching out, because you don't really talk to the other agent that much unless you have problems. That's why I like to constantly talk about when there is good things. So if I do have that combative situation, I first try to look at myself and even if you weren't in the wrong, just give yourself a little bit of self-awareness and the other person some grace too, and just say, hey, we didn't really resolve that like we could have.
Right.
Can we reset maybe, or have some self-admittance if it's your.
So what you just said was really cool, because what you're saying is sometimes we have to admit that we're wrong and say we're sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. I know.
Please forgive me.
Not me.
What can I do better next time? And let's move forward, right?
Right.
I think part of being a professional is realizing that we're not perfect, and that from time to time we do make a mistake. And that's the great thing about our community, is that this great community of realtors, and I don't care where your license hangs at, we're all a community throughout the entire U.S. And from time to time, we're gonna make a mistake. We're gonna do something that's stupid, or we're gonna say something that's stupid, whether it's intentionally or not. And we've got to be the adult enough to come back and say, I'm sorry, I've made a mistake. Please forgive me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move forward.
I don't want to do that.
And you have to do it just like that. What I noticed that I used to do bad was, and nobody, I actually have a shirt now that says nobody cares, work harder. And I wear it for myself, but give the apology or the whatever without the excuse. Don't say, I'm sorry, beep. But I got rear-ended at Walmart. I got rear-ended at Walmart. Don't tell them why. You just say, I flubbed. I'm sorry, and I'm going to fix it, and we're going to work together. And, because they have the same excuse. We all have.
Yeah, I'm sorry I was a jerk, but you were yelling at me. I'm like, what good did that?
Yeah, but you were yelling at me, and I had a bad day, and okay, just say, hey, I'm sorry, and nothing got resolved. Let's try to reset.
Let's start over.
I tell you what, a $5 Starbucks card can not only save a relationship, maybe 2.5 years later when you're showing their listing again and there's multiple offers, they remember your kindness, and somehow your offer gets,
Well, here's another key that I've learned over the years is listen when they're upset.
What?
So listen when they're upset.
2 ears, one mouth.
Yeah, and a lot of times, and I know you guys have seen this before, we don't get a lot of upset people, but we're human. We do have upset clients from time to time. And when they do call in upset, it's important for us to listen to all their concerns.
You're really good at that, because I've seen Bill before, and sometimes, mind you, he sets his phone down and walks away, but he lets them just
talk.
Put it all out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's most of the time. You think about their spouse probably doesn't listen to them, their kids don't listen to them. Bill's probably the only person, even though he's not really listening to them, but let them actually talk and voice what's going on. And so he lets them just go and go and go. And he pauses a minute. There's a lot of awkward silence. He lets them go a little bit more. And then by then, they've kind of talked themselves down from whatever they're feeling. So kudos to you, because that's hard to do.
Yeah, I heard him the other day. I don't want to go into too much detail, but somebody was disgruntled about something, and he let them go on and on and on. And he said, well, what can they do? And they said, well, nothing. I'm going to tear it down anyway. It's not what I thought. It's just not what I thought. But he said that after that person had already spoken to the listing agent, everything else, it got to him. So if it gets to him, they're mad. They're already 3 conversations in.
Yeah.
And he just let them go and said, well, what can we do? Well, nothing. It's just the principle of it. He goes, well, I'm so sorry that, and then I don't think anything else was coming to it. He let them do what they had to do. He handled it gracefully, and it was a good lesson, because it was like, it takes a lot to have somebody just kind of yelling at you and stuff, but if you know that you're their last resort.
So one of my friends that runs another brokerage here, I won't mention their name.
Because we don't want you to go to them.
Yeah.
No, it's not that. But this person runs a great brokerage, and one day I'm sitting out here, and this person called and just ripping into me. And so I'm taking notes, because it's taken me a while to figure out what's going on. And at some point in time, the person says, this is the broker who's helping me, and I write the name down. At that point in time, I smile, because it's not our agent. And
Agent.
so I
Wasn't me.
she went on some more and she talked about who the agent on the other side of the transaction is, and I wrote that name down, and I really smiled because they weren't our agent either. None of these people worked for our company. So this went on for like 45 minutes.
Oh no.
And I paused and let her keep going. And when she was done, I said, okay, I think I know how to help you. But first, I've got to get the right broker for you to talk to, because none of the parties that you called to talk about work for my company. And she said, well, isn't this such and such? I said, no, ma'am. This is who we are. And believe it or not, well, and she apologized. And the next day, a nice bottle of wine showed up with an apology note. But so that was kind of cool. It was good wine, too.
Yeah.
But the key is, I think all too often, and I learned this the hard way many years ago, is I would want to fight back.
Right.
And if I fight back and I push back in a transaction or a situation, it's not getting better. Then it's just going to see who's the bigger jerk.
Because they're already tense. You're
Yeah.
supposed to alleviate it, and by you listening and being chill, you get rewarded with a bottle of wine. I know you didn't want a bottle of wine, but that's awesome. It showed a big part on her too. Like,
Well, it showed that she was able to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Please forgive me.
oopsie.
And then she sent me a little gift. By the way, I love wine. It's Cabernet. If you want to send it to me, the address is in the show notes. But I also love Scotch. So I think that's important.
Well, I had a guy one time, he was really mad. It was another agent. He was pissed at me for some reason. And he just starts yelling at me. And, he's one of those guys that just hated me because I had a vagina, I guess. I don't know. So
What?
I can't help
When did
it.
that happen, Sarah?
I've always had one. I was born with one. So anyway,
and she chose to keep it.
he's just so mad that I'm a girl. And I don't know if I know you guys haven't felt that, but you may have felt that
Well, I
before.
don't know.
It's just this mentality, and you can feel it when it happens. And so he starts yelling, he's cussing at me at this point, and I said, it takes a really big man to talk to a woman that way. I'm going to let you go. You can call me back when you can talk to me respectfully. Well, he thought he hung up the phone, and he didn't. And you hear him in the background, he goes, call me a big man. I'll show you, big man. And he's just talking to himself. It was the best.
That's amazing.
Oh my God, it was awesome.
That is
It was
amazing.
I'm gonna get in my
me a
big lifted truck and show up to her office and show her who's boss.
Or my least
it was
BMW.
so awesome.
Oh, great.
Well, I don't know, Jay-Z, do you want to wrap us up here? I can't believe we're almost out of time already.
Yes, I actually have a really quick,
I
funny
forgot.
lockbox story that was actually
Tales from the lockbox.
sent to us by TD Reese, and I actually got it over Reddit. But it's a funny lockbox story that I think kind of ties into the whole Boudreauxs Butt paste kind of thing. I think we need to send you some Boudreauxs Butt paste, Reese. So he says the day after St. Patty's Day, he had an AM showing, and he wasn't hungover, but he wasn't feeling 100%. You know that feeling. So halfway through the showing, his stomach starts to do cartwheels and it's like screaming. So he's like, oh gosh. All right. So he tells his client like, hey, I'm so sorry. I just got to go to the bathroom real quick. So he does the clench walk downstairs to find the bathroom. He turns the sink on and the fan because he doesn't want the client to hear that he's literally dying inside. And so he says, I won't go into too much detail, but there was green dye in the beers the night before, and I was literally peeing out of my butt.
Oh my God.
So
not too much detail, right?
and so get this, the house is vacant, so there's no toilet paper in there. So he's just like, oh crap, what do I do? So he pulls up his pants, flushes, walks out, and embarrassed, he walks up to his client and says like, I'm so sorry, I gotta cut this short, I gotta go, there's an emergency. And his client's like, hey, no problem, gets in his car, and he thinks like, oh man, I'm in the clear, client didn't hear anything. As the client's backing out, he rolls his window down and says, happens.
That is so awesome.
So, Reese, thank you so much for that. Guys, thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions that you will have for us, any lockbox stories such as this that y'all want to submit,
It doesn't have to be about butts or poop, but it's funny if it is.
we do love that.
Did
stuff,
he?
though.
We need to find out if he retained that client.
We need follow up on this for
Well,
sure.
and one thing you do need to know as a realtor, as really anybody, even as a parent, keep toilet paper in your car. Keep a roll of toilet paper in your glove box.
Don't keep Boudreauxs in your
My car has 2 rolls of wrapped toilet paper, 2 things of wipes, Lysol wipes, everything. Just like I just have like a parent survival kit, which like you said,
That's
is a
perfect.
realtor survivor kit.
Oh, yeah.
It's so funny how a diaper bag and a realtor bag are the exact same thing.
Did you replace the 2 Millers in your door
Yeah.
with two rolls of toilet paper?
Oh, yeah,
instead?
yeah. Paper towels, yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for being with us. Jeff, thank you so much for
Of
being with
course,
us
that was so
again.
fun.
And
Absolutely.
we will see y'all next time.
We out.
Just had a chat, talk this and that with PB